Hey, I'm Kev Kermister and welcome to Power Oversteer, and in today's episode we are previewing the 10th round of 2013 FIA Formula 1 World Championship, the Italian Grand Prix, held at the legendary Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Apologise for my Italian pronunciation there, but it is the 12th round and coming off the 11th round, which was a rather dull race but had quite interesting implications for the championship. So we saw a familiar win at the front now. Sebastian Vettel with his 31st Grand Prix win, equaling the record that Nigel Mansell had, and is now one behind Fernando Alonso, his title rival this season it seems. Red Bull have also strengthened their grasp on the Constructors' title again as well, stretching the lead over Mercedes, with Ferrari, Lotus and now McLaren up into the top 5 of a strong showing in Belgium ahead of Force India. But on the driver's side, I say Alonso seems to be the nearest rival to Vettel at the moment, with Hamilton, Raikkonen also in there. And so now we go on to the news since that Belgian race. Today's top story is that on transfer deadline day, Daniel Ricciardo had joined Red Bull from Toro Rosso on a free transfer. The smiling assassin as he otherwise known has partnered Frenchman Jean-Eric Vergne at Toro Rosso for the past couple of seasons, after making his debut with HRT at the British Grand Prix in 2011. He's a point behind Vergne in the championship, as had impressive shows in qualifying, getting to Q3 many times. He replaces Mark Webber, his fellow Australian, in the team, with Webber going to the World Endurance Championship and the Porsche LMP1 program next season. Ricciardo will partner Sebastian Vettel, the 3-time world champion, in the team. Ricciardo has been given assurances that he's been given assurances that he's getting equal treatment at the team. In other news, James Calado has got the 3rd driver role and test role at Force India. James Calado, just like Ricciardo did with Red Bull, had impressed at the Young Drivers Test in Silverstone in July. The current 5th placed guy in the GP2 standings, the Briton has been in GP3, runner-up behind Valtteri Bottas in 2011, and was the most impressive rookie in GP2 last season. And in recent years, the test 3rd driver role has been a stepping stone to get into the main driver's seat in the team, with Nico Hülkenberg and Paul di Resta stepping up to Force India's seats, and Jules Bianchi stepping up to a Mauritius seat this season. So it remains to be seen, but this could be a stepping stone for next season for Calado. In other news, we have seen rumours of the Mexican Grand Prix again returning to the calendar. Tivo Halmond, who had been instrumental in getting the Circuit of Americas up and running and onto the calendar. The Austin Circuit had been an impressive debut on the calendar last season as the home of now, again, the United States Grand Prix. But he's trying to revive the Mexican Grand Prix as well, working with someone to get the Herman Mondo Rodriguez circuit back onto the calendar, which last held a Grand Prix in the early 90s. Since then, Champ Car and NASCAR visited the circuit, but it would need upgrading to make its way onto the calendar to even be considered for the calendar as well. Also in other news and recent news, in the last hour, breaking news that Robin Frings, the last season's Formula Renault 3.5 champion and race winner in GP2 this season, has parted company with Sauber. The Swiss outfit had been bought into by Russian companies in the past few months, and it looks like Sergei Sorokin will get a seat with that team next season. But this leaves the Dutchman as the odd one out, and his future is very uncertain, as he doesn't even have a GP2 drive and has a lack of sponsorship money. Meanwhile, the guy who's coming into Sauber for next season, Sorokin, whether it's a test or a race driver, turned 18. And so that is the news that we have had since the last event in Monza. Don't know what came over me there, but there's also the news that James Allison has started work as the Sachet Technical Director this week at Ferrari after a bit of garden leave after leaving Lotus in May. And Director of Engineering now, Pat Ferrari, expecting an instant boost from him starting work at Ferrari, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do for the remainder of the season and from beyond with the new regs next season. And so yeah, that is now the news, and we're going to of course go on to the track facts. So track facts for the Italian Grand Prix, and it's held at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Again, apologise for the Italian pronunciation. It's now the Gran Premio Sant'Anna d'Italia since 2007. There's been won by Michael Schumacher the most, with 5 wins, with of course his last win in 2006 when he announced his retirement, his first retirement from Formula 1. This is ahead of Nelson Piquet, who's got 4 wins. And then there's 3 wins for drivers such as Juan Manuel Fangio, Sterling Marsh, Ronnie Peterson, Alain Prost and Rubens Barrichello. He got his last Grand Prix win here, his last Grand Prix win in 2009 here. So 2 wins for guys such as Phil Hill, John Surtees, Jackie Stewart, Clay Regazzoni, Niki Lauda, Ayrton Senna, Damon Hill, Juan Pablo Montoya, and the best of the current drivers, Fernando Alonso 2007-2010, and Sebastian Vettel in 2008 and in 2011 has, well, some facts about the Monza circuit. So it's going to be 53 laps on Sunday, circuit length 5.793 kilometers long with 3.6 miles, race length 306.720 kilometers long, 190.596 miles. It's been held 82 times, the Italian Grand Prix, with the first race in 1921. As I said, most wins for Schumacher with 5 as driver's side. On the constructor's side, Ferrari have the most wins with 19. Behind them is McLaren with 10, Alfa Romeo with 8, Williams with 6, Lotus with 5, Mercedes-Benz with 4, with Auto Union also getting 4, and Brabham with 3, British Racing Motors or BRM with 3, Fiat with 2, Bugatti with 2, Maserati with 2, Van Wall with 2, and Renault also with 2 wins. The Italian Grand Prix has been held at Monza for almost all of the times it's been run, apart from 1980 when it was held at Imola. And we all know that the San Marino Grand Prix was then held at Imola after that. And there's been some rumours about the Monza maybe disappearing from the calendar, especially with rumours about Rome getting a contract from 2012. Those proved to be false, and Monza has got a contract until at least 2016 to be on the calendar. Last year it was the Lewis Hamilton show, as he got pole with a 124.010, and in the race he won it from Sergio Perez by 4.356 seconds, and Alonso by 20.594 seconds. Faster than that went to Nico Rosberg with a 127.239. And last year's race was mainly actually remembered for me by Sergio Perez's run in the second half of the race, making his way through the field, taking good care of those tyres, and really catching Hamilton in the last few laps. So maybe if it lasted a few more laps, you might have caught up to Hamilton. But yeah, very good win for McLaren last year. Unlikely to see that this year, maybe. But in recent years, it has been a mixture of constructors who have won this at this circuit, as it's always changing circuit as well. And Monza has had so many changes over the years since it started in 1921 when Jules Gulks, I'm rubbish at saying this, won in the Ballard at Brescia. So it's actually been other circuits that the Grand Prix has been held. But we also saw Antonio Ascari win his Alfa Romeo in 1924, and then Louis Chiron in the Bugatti in 1928. Nuvolali getting a couple of wins with Campari, with Cracciologa, all the greats from the pre-war racing. And this was, sometimes it was held at the Monza full circuit, the fearsome 10-kilometer circuit. And this was the circuit that had the banking on it, and it's famous, perhaps more famous for film buffs actually, for starring in the film Grand Prix in 1966. But it used to be raced there for the Grand Prix in 1955, 1956, 1960 and 1961. This is post-war in the official Formula 1 era. And these changes were made to make Ferrari competitive in 1955 56, and in 1960 and 61 especially, banking was added because Ferrari had very strong horsepower. That's what Enzo Ferrari believed in, horsepower. But it wasn't very good round the turns, and so the British teams boycotted the first race with the banking in 1960, and it was actually Phil Hill who won in the Ferrari. It was the last victory for a front-engined Formula 1 car, at least in the official Formula 1 races. And so post-war, we've seen Alberto Ascari winning the Ferrari, Giuseppe Farina winning the Alfa Romeo in 1950, then Ascari won twice after that, then Fangio 3 times after that from 53 to 55, Sterling Moss twice in a row, Tony Brooks, then Moss again in 59, and Phil Hill, as I said, in 60 and 61. And there's been many classic races at Monza. In 1961, unfortunately, this is a classic race for all the wrong reasons, when Phil Hill and his teammate Wolfgang von Trips were Ferrari teammates and they were gunning for the title. Von Trips just had to get a very good result in the top 4 to guarantee the title. In the end, on that 4, well, Phil Hill was fighting for the win. Von Trips was fighting for 4th, and he pulled across on Jim Clark down the straight before Paolo Barca. Von Trips' car somersaulted, Clark spun, and unfortunately Von Trips, along with 14 spectators, died. And Phil Hill won the race and clinched the title by a point. And Monza has been known as the season finale, the classic season finale at first, in 1956 before that. Sterling Moss won the race, but this is after he had run out of fuel in the middle after that, and so he had to coast back and refuel the car. And before that, we saw Juan Manuel Fangio was going for the title. His car broke down, and Luigi Messo, who was driving for Ferrari, was ordered to pull over. The Frenchman refused to, and he led the race until his retirement, and then Moss took over and won the race. But Peter Collins, he had a very outside chance of winning the title in this Ferrari, pulled over and gave his car to Juan Manuel Fangio. Can't imagine teammates doing that in this era, can you? But it was very different back in the 50s. Classic races after that as well. There was the infamous race in 1967 when John Surtees won in his Honda by 0.2 seconds from Jack Brabham in his Brabham. But it's famous because of Jim Clark, maybe one of his best drives ever. He had problems in the early part of the race, dropped down a whole lap, and then he equalled his pole time and smashed that records and unlapped himself and actually took the lead back. But unfortunately for him, his charge was halted by a fuel pump when it broke, and he coasted to the line in the 3rd. In 1969, Jackie Stewart won his first title in his Matra Ford, and he also in a close finish with Joachim Windt and Jean-Pierre Beltraz and Bruce McLaren. He won by 0.08 seconds, with Beltraz and McLaren just 0.2 of a second behind. In 1970, we saw a race with 28 lap changes won by Clay Regazzoni in his Ferrari's first Grand Prix win. Unfortunately, this event is remembered for the practice crash which claimed the life of Jochen Rindt, who had won 5 races in his Lotus that year. Jackie Inks, his closest rival, and couldn't overhaul his total, and so is the only posthumous world champion. Then the next year, 1971, we saw Peter Geffen get his only Grand Prix win in his BRM. He won by 0.01 seconds from Ronnie Peterson, who took a inside line into the power barker, but Geffen got on the power, got the run, and just pipped him to the line. Francois Sever, Jackie Stewart teammate at Tyrrell, came 3rd, with Mike Hailwood and Howden Gainey coming in 5th. Hailwood just 0.2 seconds behind, and Gainey just 0.5 seconds behind, so 0.5 seconds covering the top 5. And then there were changes made to ones that had in chicanes, because the circuit had no chicanes. It was pretty much unchanged until the early 70s. And this is where the cars were really evolving, getting so much faster. So from 72 to 75, they had it in what we now know as the Frianti Ascari. There's also chicanes had it on the front straight from 76 to 99 with the Retafio, with the De Roger. The second Lesmos slowed down a bit, and there were runoff areas added to such places as Curva Grande and the Lesmos. And so yeah, there are lots of changes to the circuit. And after that, we saw some more classic races. We saw Ronnie Peterson kind of win a couple of races from 73 to 74, and we also saw tragedy the accident which claimed his life here in 1978, when at the start it was a mess. The start was just a mess, and there was an incident before the Rettifilo, the new Rettifilo chicane, and Peterson was in the crash, and there was no safety workers really there. And quickly on the scene was James Hunt and Patrick Depailler. They pulled him out of the wreckage, but his legs were badly damaged, and he actually died from an embolism the next day, unfortunately. And this was the catalyst for the event with Sid Watkins, with Ben Nicholson really smarting up circuits on the safety side. The next year though would bring joy for Ferrari, with Jody Scheckter in his Ferrari winning the race and winning the title from Gilles Villeneuve, his teammate, who came in second. And in the 80s, of course, we had the famous race in 1988 with Gerhard Berger winning in his Ferrari, a 1-2 from Michele Alboreto, and this was after Ayrton Senna was leading the race late in the race, and then John Lewis Chesser in his Williams, he was replacing Nigel Mansell, who was injured, and his only Grand Prix race, Chesser, who was more known as a sports car driver, driving for Jaguar that year, if I remember, and leading the championship in the World Sports Car Championship that season. And so he came up ahead of Senna into the Rettifilo when it was a 3-turned corner, with now it's just got 2 turns, and he came up, outbraked himself. Senna went for the gap, and Chesser just came across him. Senna got beached on the curve, he couldn't get his car off, and so this was less than a month after Enzo Ferrari had died, and so it was a 1-2 for Ferrari, one of the most magical moments in Grand Prix history. But in recent years, it has seen Williams kind of dominating the early 90s, of course, and then we saw classic races such in 1995 when Johnny Herbert won in his Benetton, getting his second win in 5 races after Hill and Schumacher collided in Silverstone. Guess what happened in Monza? This Hill went into the back of Schumacher. Schumacher was a bit angry at that, but this led a Ferrari 1-2. Divine intervention again. Not quite, it was divine intervention from the T-cam from an 80s car, which broke off, went into Gerhard Berger's suspension, broke that, and then AC pitted a few laps later with fire, and so he had to retire, and Johnny Herbert won the race. We saw Michael Schumacher win in 96 in his Ferrari, and this was after Damon Hill had spun on the tyres in the Rettifilo, so in his title challenge with Jack Villeneuve, it kind of closed it up. And then we also saw 1999, a classic race with Heinz-Harald Frentzen winning in his Jordan, really holding on that title fight there. This is after Mika Hampton was just dominating the race, and then spun at the Rettifilo, very, very clumsy spin from the Finn, and unfortunately Hakkinen, the emotions overcame him, went in the bushes, hid, and tried to hide and cried, but unfortunately TP cameras caught that. Unfortunately, at the next race in 2000, there was an incident at the start. The new Rettifilo's reprofiled, so was the Dale Rodgier bit, and going into Dale Rodgier, the 2 Jordans sandwiched Rubens Barrichello, and so they crashed, and in the crash a stray wheel hit a Marshall and he died, a stray wheel from Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Jordan. And then the next season we had the first race after 9/11, and that was Juan Pablo Montoya's first win in his Williams. And then in 2002 Montoya got the fastest qualifying lap at 259.827 kilometers per hour, 161.449 miles per hour, a 1 minute 20.264 lap. Don't think they will hit those speeds in qualifying. This beat Keke Rosberg's pole record from Silverstone 1985, the first 160 mile per hour pole lap at the very fast Silverstone back then, without Mackett's and Beckett's, as we know, without chicanes. Well, just one in Woodcote, but that was very fast. And so in recent years, we also saw Montoya win in 2005. The preview wasn't useless in the McLaren. Schumacher's emotional win in 2006. An emotional win in 2000 when after the race he realised and he equalled it, and Senna's 41 wins he broke down in the press conference. 2008 we saw Sebastian Vettel become the youngest driver to win a race at 21 years and 74 days, beating Fernando Alonso's record by 317 days. 2006 we saw the first podium for Robert Kubica in just his 3rd race, and Vettel was also the youngest pole winner for that race in 2008. And in 2011 he went round the outside of Alonso at Curva Grande to win that race. Alonso won in 2010 after a great battle with Jenson Button in his McLaren, and he just won out in the pit stop phase. And so yeah, that is the Italian Grand Prix. Loads of history, loads of changes to the Monza circuit. No more banking there to race on, and even though it is nice to look at from a historic perspective. And so yeah, those are track facts for the Italian Grand Prix. Let's do some predictions now. So predictions for the Italian Grand Prix. I'm going to try and keep it brief of the rather long track facts, but going into this race, it's going to be interesting to see how Red Bull do. It looks like their low downforce package for Spa really did work, and it'd be interesting to see if Vettel can win again like he did in 2011 and 2008. But I'm not sure he will. I'm going to get my Tifosi hat on, and I'm going to say Fernando Alonso will win this race in his Ferrari. Not much improved last race in Spa, and Alonso said like the updates they had on the car, they're now working. They're bringing that time to them, and so yeah, I think Alonso might win this race. And also look out for Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton. It looked like they went badly on the setup side at Spa. They expected rain in the race and it didn't come, so they didn't quite have the optimum setup in the race there. And it looks like there might be rain this weekend in Monza as well. There's been some forecasts for rain to go over the circuit during the race. That could be interesting. 2008 maybe. But yeah, Hamilton and the Mercedes engine, you know, Rosberg as well did faster that last year with Hamilton winning and getting pole last year. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they can do in that Mercedes around the circuit. I think they will do very well. And Lotus, I'm not sure about. They kind of lost in Belgium, and so they might just be fighting to get top 5 here. Behind them you got McLaren, who look quite good actually. They could be fighting Lotus again to get maybe a top 5. Even though they've ruled out a podium, I do think they have a very outside chance of getting that maybe. If they can get the setup right, if they get everything right, get into Q3, then they have a very outside chance of maybe getting that, you know. They might have to look for a retirement or two, but it could happen. And so at the front, as I said, I think Alonso will win. I will maybe have Vettel second and Hamilton third. I think that will be my podium. Let me know what your podium will be in the comments below. But heading back towards the midfield, as I said, McLaren maybe fighting for the top 5. Force India maybe getting some points. You know, Sittel looked quite good in that race once he was clear of the midfield clusterfuck. And so yeah, maybe look for Sittel to be in there as well. Sauber, they look like an okay car. I think Hulkenberg just got the strategy. I think they just got the strategy wrong with him. And so yeah, maybe look for them to be there, and Gutierrez, you know, maybe be there as well. Williams don't have a hope in hell of getting a point, I think. And Toro Rosso maybe getting a point as well, getting a nice home point as well. It's their home race as well, along with Ferrari, you know. So the former Ferrari Minardi team from Faenza, I think they might sneak a point as well. Ricciardo, of course, you know, getting that Red Bull seat, be so full of confidence. And Fern normally comes on strong in races as well, even if he doesn't qualify the best. I think, you know, maybe look for them to sneak a point. Battle of the newer teams, Caterham, not much better. So yeah, look for them to do well. And Van der Garde on a bit of a roll now. Maybe look for him to do maybe the best of the newer teams, ahead of Pick, ahead of Bianchi, and then Chilton at the back. So that's my predictions for the Italian Grand Prix. As I said, let me know what your predictions are in the comments below, and I'll be back with Power Oversteer covering the Baltimore race. I still haven't watched it. I've been busy over the weekend and for the past few days, and so hopefully I can watch it tomorrow and then review it, and some gameplay on the channel, of course. Get some Road to Glory back on this channel. So yeah, salamat for watching. So till next time, cheerio.